This curious object is an ancient leper's bell, once used by victims of that dread disease to warn the public of their approach. When this bell rang, the people ran the other way. Today, of course, we live in a medically enlightened age, but this little bell may still serve a very useful purpose, particularly when it's time for fractured flickers.
1, 2.
Good evening, and welcome to Fractured Flickers. I'm Hans Conried, the Dr. Samuel Johnson of the 7-inch screen. Our first flicker this evening is a searing indictment of our times and the system of values by which we live. It will probably shock you, startle you, even make you furious. It throws down the gauntlet to those hidebound Puritans who said that this kind of material mustn't be shown on a family program. It takes a far-out stand on controversial political and moral issues. Yes, our first flicker is so bold, so daring, so downright dangerous that we're going to chicken out and run our second flicker instead.
Scrutiny, a penetrating analysis of the world we live in. Tonight's report, great men through the ages, from Hippocrates to Einstein.
That's Hippocrates.
Oh. From Hippocrates to Einstein. Since the beginning of time, Mother Earth has spawned great leaders. We are about to scrutinize them. Unfortunately, time limitations do not permit us to pay just tribute to such illustrious men as Helen of Troy, Stonewall Jackson, George Armstrong Custer, and Mrs. Alfred Nobel, who helped her husband discover dynamite. Man was not put here on Earth as a joke. From the beginning, he had a purpose. He was an excellent source of protein for animals such as these. But let us go forward to 12 BC and a remarkable man named Cannibal.
That's Hannibal.
Hannibal. What did he do? He was the very first to cross the Alps, not on skis, but on horseback. Years later, Isaac Newton, by throwing an object into the air, discovered that whatever went up came down on his head. Every time. Great men began building a new nation. Men like George Washington, shown here crossing the Delaware. While over in France, French scientists were making remarkable discoveries. Young Louis Pasteur, flushed with excitement at the prospect of having Paul Muni play his life, gave little or no thought to a cure for rabies, until he was forced to. During that period, an American, Alexander Graham Bell, invented the telephone.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Because he always got a busy signal, Bell spent much of his time running down to the phone company and complaining. And this is the immortal Professor E.L. Guffey, who gave the world Guffey's Reader and a method of arithmetic simple enough for a child to grasp. Guffey's theory proved that if you take L-I-H and a he, adding 7 and a 3 plus 1 and 1 points to he plus he, 4, which is 2 and 2. That brings us to the mu factor, which by simple subtraction gives us 58100 mu, or 307 times 10 minus 26 gms, which proves E equals Mc2.
How about that?
This has been Scrutiny, wherein great men have been scrutinized. But we have left our final and highest tribute to two men whose greatness outshone all others, Stanley and Livingston.
If any of you good people are troubled with friends who just won't go home after a party is over, you know, the kind who hang around in the doorway, here's a handy hint for you. Just bring up the subject of fractured flickers. Mention that you watch the program all the time. Give a digest version of one of our plots. Repeat 2 or 3 of the jokes. You'll be alone before you know it. It's very effective for getting seats on a crowded bus, too. As a matter of fact, in a test case last week, just 2 researchers talking about fractured flickers took only 3 minutes, 8 seconds to empty Grand Central Station.
The F-Bar-F Dude Ranch makes this special offer. 6 days in the great outdoors for just $9.95. A warm Western welcome is yours as you enter the great lobby of the main lodge of the world-famous F-Bar-F. For at the F-Bar-F, friendliness and hospitality have been watchwords for both men and women for over half a century, and you are instantly made to feel you are truly wanted. Many a romance has bloomed under Western skies, and many, of course, haven't. Pack trips into the far deserts and mountains are a daily event here at the F-Bar-F, and the specially trained animals see to it that you never get lost. As a matter of fact, you may never even leave. The animals are gentle, and once they are properly packed, which takes a kind of special knack, you are indeed ready for a day never to be forgotten. You'll mount your stallion from the right in true Western fashion, and riding tall in the saddle, you're off and running. Along the trail, there is much of interest to be seen. A great deal has been written and sung about the tumbling tumbleweed, a strange Western phenomena.
Them tumbling tumbleweeds just like to tumble. Don't give a tumble where they tumble round. All they know is they just gotta tumble. When they tumble, you just gotta leave the town.
Cactus grows wild along the Western Trail. You'll be sure to want to pick some for souvenirs. You can learn trick roping, trapping, or how to bulldog a steer. For the less hardy, there's always the safe and sane buckboard. Or the traditional early morning breakfast ride with your fellow guests.
Hey, wait for me!
But whether it be trick mountain like you've seen on television, or just sitting quietly enjoying the myriad scenic wonders of the wide, wide West, you'll find it all at the F-Bar-F. And believe me, when you Fractured Flickers fans return home after this unique 6-day adventure, your head will be clear. You'll have bounce in your step again. You'll be rested and happy and glad that we could get together.
Mr. J.G. writes, that's a fascinating hairpiece that Hans Conried wears on your program. Hairpiece? Where can I get one like it? Well, I have news for you, J.G. The only way you can get one like it is to scalp me.
A Fractured Flickers outraged editorial. Where has Hollywood glamour gone? The public has a right to know. Remember the great directors? Remember when Bette Davis ruled Warner's? When Cary Grant simply opened a door and hearts went aflutter? Remember that Doug Fairbanks athletic dash? When the merest gesture of Joan Crawford's hand caused excitement? Yes, remember when millions thrilled to the glamour that was Hollywood? And then something happened. Hollywood lost its glamour when those familiar faces came down off the big screen to join ordinary folks. What happened? What wrong turn was taken to disenchant the American public? Tinseltown cracked up. But who did it? You, Audrey Hepburn. From you we expected class. And you, Fabian and Pat Boone, what made you turn away from badminton and polo? Yes, friends, the quiet splendor of Romanoff's has been replaced by the casual atmosphere of Howard Johnson's and such places that even charge less than $20 a person. How can there be glamour today when Tony Curtis's agent allows the Star's home to be filled with paying tourists? And you, Steve McQueen, when you run into old friends on Hollywood Boulevard, doesn't it mean anything to you anymore? Don't you even care? Don't you care how these things look in public, Sandra Dee and Bobby Darin? And you, Frank Sinatra and John Wayne, does this truly help to bring back Hollywood glamour? It's a far cry from the days of the ultra-sophisticated chanteuse to today's jazzy red-hot combo. The big stars used to maintain shooting clubs and hunting lodges where their friends were given a warm welcome. Today, they race sports cars and cycles alone. Once, the studios had a wonderfully breezy atmosphere. Today's young actors are pushed too far, too fast. The old-time cops and robbers movie star used to love the glamour of food. Today, nobody thinks of anything but dieting. And don't you think you've gone a little too far, James Arnett? Finally, with today's modern camera, we see the last tragic loss of glamour. Stars no longer fight divorce actions as they used to. And starlets no longer commit suicide in the glamorous manner. They've sunk to using nets. So goodbye now from plain old Hollywood, which today is just an ordinary town full of ordinary people. A town very much like yours.
The drama which you are about to see unfold has a timeless quality to it. Its basic message has remained unchanged through the passing years. Ladies and gentlemen, the commercial. Well, I suppose you're wondering why this rather outre get-up. The reason is that our guest this evening usually dresses this way, and we want him to feel right at home. I suppose by now you're way ahead of me and know we're expecting none other than that hilarious beatnik character from the Dobie Gillis show, Maynard G. Krebs himself, Bob Denver. And here he is now coming, Bob, like slip me 5 warm ones, man.
Good evening, Mr. Conrad, sir.
Hey, old buddy boy, you're coming on like naked, no?
I beg your pardon?
Like where's the hay, man? Where'd you stash the chin spinach?
Oh, my beard, you mean? Mr. Conrad, that was merely an item of character delineation. When the Dobie Gillis show suspended production, I removed it, of course.
Like you don't dig a beaver anymore, Daddy.
I don't plan any further hirsute adornment, if that's what you mean.
Like who's gonna know you're hip without the straw pop?
Actually, I'm attempting to embrace a somewhat larger professional scope this season.
Oh, you're playing it cool, eh, man?
And I was wondering if you might be able to give me some assistance in realizing the part I'm thinking of playing.
Oh, like Stanley in Streetcar?
No, the part of Iago in Othello.
Shakespeare? Well, I mean like Shoot Pop.
Tell me, do you see the character of Iago as motivated by a Caesaristic urge for self-destruction, or merely by a schizoid Oedipus syndrome?
I see him purple, man.
Purple?
Yeah, that's it. Act him like you were acting the color purple.
What kind of acting is that?
Well, that's the method, man.
Stanislavski method?
The my method. You're getting it direct, man, like right from the horse's mouth.
I thought it was something like that. Is that the way Jose Ferrer did it?
Man, he was the purplest, like Moe.
Mr. Conrad, I don't know how to say this, but I can see this interview as quite a strain for you, and you don't have to talk beat to me.
Well, I have to stay in character, man.
Why?
Well, if I speak normally in this makeup, it's going to make me look like an idiot.
Would you be any more comfortable if I talk beat to you?
No use in both of us looking like idiots.
Well, is there any other advice you can give me, Mr. Conrad?
Yes, my boy, there is. Always show up for rehearsals and performances on time. Sober, with your shoes shined and your lines learned. Don't upstage the leading lady, do your romancing with the character woman, and never step upon a stage with a child or a dog or another actor playing Abraham Lincoln or Jesus Christ.
Anything else?
Anything else? I've just given you a digest version of 30 years of theatrical experience.
There's one thing you might have added, though.
Well, what's that?
Like when you're doing an interview, always do the opposite of what people expect you to do, right?
You mean the way you just did, huh?
Just that way.
Well, we can all of us always learn a little something more, can't we?
So they say.
Even you, Robert.
What do you mean?
Well, don't you know how Iago is usually played?
Purple.
No, my dear boy. With a small beard, such as the one you just shaved off.
Like ouch.
Like good night, Bob Denver.
Like yeah.
The following program is brought to you by Beaver Brothers, makers of Mux, the creamy complexion soap that brings out the real you. That's Mux, the soap the stars use for a lovelier complexion.
Cheese.
Here's news about another Beaver Brothers product, Scalp Muck, the greasy kid stuff for your hair. Scalp Muck 60-second workout once a day will end your grooming problems for good. That's Scalp Muck, the clean white hair dressing for men, women, and greasy kids.
The American woman has a worldwide reputation for her glamour, her simple elegance, her trim figure, her immaculate grooming, and her taste in clothes. But what lies at the bottom of this reputation? We'll find out tonight in the El Rancho Gordo story. This is El Rancho Gordo, a desert spa that is a mecca for American women, portrayed here by professional models. It is the creation of America's first lady of beauty, Countess Conchita Finkelstein. And just what does Rancho Gordo mean?
Blubber City, booby.
Yes, here at Rancho Gordo, known to its devotees as Fat Chance Ranch, the Countess and her staff spend long hours to work their magic charms on the female figure. Here, the Countess herself leads a group through the traditional morning calisthenics.
And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and chop, chop, chop.
Now for a look inside Rancho Gordo's steam room, where extra pounds are melted off heavy clients. Played here by professional models. It is estimated that more than 400 tons of fat have been shed in this room. The greatest victory over blubber since Captain Ahab got Moby Dick. Here in the salon is the famous masseur, Mr. Dickey, working on a client's cheeks.
Not cheeks, sweetie. These are jowls. Ow!
Clients troubled with problems of excess hair can use the Countess's instant hair remover, as in this demonstration posed by professional models. Bald professional models. And now, a Fractured Flickers exclusive. Here are 5 tips from the Countess for keeping fit and winning male admiration. Rule number 1, avoid riding in elevators whenever possible. The routine act of going to and from your office or apartment can be your best daily exercise. Rule number 2, after each meal, sprint around the block. Rule number 3, swim in the Y pool whenever possible. Yeah! Rule number 4, try to relax. And rule number 5, even if you're on the go, do a dozen chin-ups every day. Just follow the Countess's beauty tips, and the next thing you know, men will be trying to pick you up. They won't make it, but at any rate, they'll try.
As you know, we on Fractured Flickers heartily defend the right to change and edit the stories and sequences of the older films on our show. We feel it's perfectly all right to take certain liberties with existing material, but there comes a time when liberty becomes license. I refer, of course, to that little sneak in Joplin, Missouri, who's taking prints of Fractured Flickers, recutting them into straight pictures, and running them at art houses. You keep that up, Jesse James, and we'll sue.
Say goodbye to the beloved ace detective Sherman Oaks. For although this is the hour of his greatest triumph, it is also the last in our Minute Mysteries series, which will end in 3 weeks. And now the case which gave him more trouble than any other, the death of Sherman Oaks. Oak's death occurred just in time for his funeral. It might have been July 4th, but it wasn't. It was Washington's birthday, which is the way Oakes would have wanted it. A stunned world grieved, and as a tribute, no one went to work. Remember, it was Washington's birthday. But let us go back in time to the events leading up to this tragedy, to London, England, and the laboratory of Sir Hilary Starling, who by request of the British government had to perfect a synthetic plastic. Starling, British to the core, won recognition for being the first man to put English on a cue ball. Unfortunately, the synthetic plastic would have to wait until Starling perfected a way of cooking a 3-minute egg in 2 minutes. A volunteer egg was placed in a hot crock. It was to remain there under constant heat and pressure for no less than 24 days. At the end of that period, the anxious Starling opened the crock and, quivering with anticipation, removed the egg as though it were his very own. Spirits soared as it was observed that the shell was cooked to cracking perfection. However, the yolk had been cooked a trifle too long, some 23.5 days, according to Starling's calculations. Refusing to accept failure, however, he insisted on enlisting the aid of America's greatest scientific mind, Sherman Oakes. The others heartily concurred. Oakes was touring London at the time, and just having completed a tour of the Tower of London, decided to go to the nearest telegraph office and send a message to Sir Hilary Starling. Instead of sending one, he received one. Never one to refuse a call for help, Oakes gathered his wits and set out for the Hilary laboratory. It was well after midnight when he arrived, eager to solve Hilary's problem. Alas, Oakes was unaware that a culprit had set a booby trap and caught a booby. Rushing to the scene of the disaster, Starling fought to pull himself together, which is more than could be done for Oakes. The great detective was dead. Angry and determined to find his murderer, Oakes wasted no time in getting onto the killer's trail. Step number 1, gather clues. These consisted of a very dull book, the one that got away, a faulty egg cooker, hot stuff, more dull books, a faulty bagel, my discharge papers, and a candy bar. The clues led Oakes to a hot suspect who surrendered without a struggle when Oakes used judo on him. Who was this hot suspect? Was it one of those chaps that Dick Tracy had so much trouble with? Was it Goose Tatum? Was it a Smith brother? A Smith sister? A Smithsonian? Someone who watches this program? Me on New Year's morning? Or Gene Krupa? Now, can you match wits with Oakes? Can you name his murderer just as Oakes did? You have 60 seconds. Time's up. If you said he did it, you're wrong. He's dead. Well, he is now, anyway. And now, a public service feature of Fractured Flickers. This dog is lost. When last seen, he was not wearing shoes, nor a hat either. He is a Great Bernard, easily identified by his shiny coat and infected right ear. His head will not come off, no matter how hard you pull. He has a fondness for liver, cat's liver. He was reported missing when his owner, attempting to change a tire, became separated from the car and the faithful animal. Anyone finding this dog, contact Fractured Flickers, Lost and Found Department, and ask for the dog's owner, E. Eddie Edwards. Mr. Edwards can be found in one of our filing cabinets under E.
Well, our producer tells me it's time to say nighty-night to all you folksies. He actually talks that way.
1, 2.
Hans Conried saying good night and leaving you with this quotation from the Chinese philosopher Kun Wan. If a man be proud, wise be he who shakes the pear tree for the fish. Inscrutable people, those Chinese.